Hey, it's Adele from Let's Get Inky, and today I've got an art journal spread for you with a bit of collaging, a bit of magazine chomping, and a little bit of doodly brush lettering. So I am using a cover from a Frankie magazine, and whenever I use the cover, I always try to attempt to, as you can see me struggling here, attempt to split it in half because, of course, the front covers of magazines are especially thick. They're not the usual text weight of a magazine. And so just to try and eliminate the chunkiness from my journal, I always try to split them. So that's a bit of a tip if you're using covers, or even if you're using like things that come on a box. Sometimes if I'm cutting out some packaging that I really like, I also split the cardboard as well. Something that I love doing with my magazine images is overlapping them over the spine. I just don't like the spine. It annoys me sometimes. And this page is in I think it is in the second half of this journal. So the start of this journal is already starting to get a bit chunky. The left-hand side of the page is raised up a little bit. And so I like to overlap it over the spine. It just kind of brings the two pages together. So then I felt like doing some stripy patterns of collage. I'm using some Liquitex matte gel medium to stick all of this down, and I have a specific paintbrush. It's this cheapy one from, I think it was from Spotlight in a pack maybe. It only cost me less than $10 for maybe 5 brushes, but it's a really great one for gesso and gel medium because it's wide so that I can cover a lot of surface area quickly, but it's also the brushy bits aren't too synthetic. I find that sometimes if I use the brushes that are white tipped, I hope that makes sense. You can get the paintbrushes that are synthetic that have a white brushy bit. I find that sometimes those hairs fall out a little bit more, or they don't really work for gessoing as well, because when I gesso and matte gel medium, I'm quite rough. I slap that gel medium down and just smush it in there with my paintbrush. So you want a brush that's a bit sturdy. So while I've been yabbering on, I stuck down a black and white striped serviette napkin. And then I've got a little piece from a Categories gamepad. We really love board games in our house. We probably have, probably between 30 and 35 different board games. We don't get to play them as often as we used to because a lot of our friends who we used to play with have moved away. We do still play with some family, which is really fun. But we really love board games, and I love board games that have a specific scoring pad. I have a Yahtzee scoring pad, and I love using that in my junk journals. And so instead of using my my Categories little pieces of paper with everyone's answers written on them, I chuck them in my junk journal books, and they've been really nice to add a little handwritten element to my pages. So that's something you can do with either. You can even do it with shopping lists, or if you write a to-do list for yourself, or old planners and calendars and address books. If there's anything that you're throwing out, recipe cards that has your handwriting or someone else's handwriting, these are great for collaging in your journals or making pages if they're a bit bigger in your junk journal. So this mottily painted splattered bit of paper up the top there is actually some paper towel. And what I'd done a little experiment. I used this paper towel, I think, it would be a few years ago, because it was when I was on my real packaging technique craze with my spray mists, and I had used the paper towel to sop up some leftover mist. And then I wanted to know, I think I got a few new hiiiii Shine splatters and wanted to see what they actually look like. So I just splattered them on the paper towel, and I really liked the look of it, so I just kept splattering. And then I tried to thicken my paper towel because of course it was very floppy and floopy, and so I stuck it together. I think I must have used gel medium. I think that's what I used to stick it together. So it was quite thick, and I kept it to use as a collage item, and it has been hiding away in my little box of junk journal, art journal supplies. And I'm really trying to make a dent on that box because that box is expanding. It's getting more stuff in it every single week, and I need to make some room. So then I felt like I needed a bit more blue. I had that paper on the left hand side there with the hot pink and blue, they're not diamonds, they're, that shape needs a name. It's not a teardrop because it's got a pointy top and a pointy bottom. Let's come up with a name in the comments. It kind of reminds me of it should be called like a squirple or something, because it's kind of like a square but it's not. So I'm going to call them squirples for now. If you've got a better name, let me know. But those blue squirples, I needed another hit of blue on my page. So I grabbed some Dilutions blue paint, and I'm just popping that down. I always do 2 coats when I use this paint because it is quite thin, and I much prefer a more pigmented look than just having a thin coat that you can see the brush strokes in. So I'm just adding some bits and pieces, and this is the ugly phase where things don't look like they're put together, but they soon will. So because I already had my paintbrush dirty with blue paint, I decided to slap some in my junk journal. So I'm just plonking that down here, and I have actually finished this junk journal now. I have filmed a flip through, but that won't be up for a few months over here on YouTube because I have a couple more process videos to do before that goes up. But that's very exciting. And I think next week I have a 4-day crafty week. So Archie's at daycare for 4 days, and I think I'm going to crack open a new junk journal and make a new one. So I'm very excited about that. I wanted to make my blue not patchy, but I felt like it was very blocky, and a way that I like to blend large painted sections in with the rest of my page and collage bits is by using some white paint through a small stencil. I think that small stencils are great to have in your stash because you can use them in tiny sections, where if you're using a stencil that has larger designs, I have a large floral that I love, or even large squirples, it's more difficult to kind of get enough of the pattern onto the page to make the shapes make sense, but a smaller design helps. So while I've got my stencil dirty, let's stencil all the things. I went a bit stencil crazy. This is my Use It Up journal, which I have also finished and filmed a flip through of, which will be up in a few months' time. I'm really excited for this one. I'm trying to get ahead with some video filming, and so you won't see this one for a few months, but it's finally finished, and I've had a second one on the go for I would say a year now, but that one's not close to finishing yet. So back to the layout, I have sped this next bit up quite speedily, and I wanted to tie in a bit more of the florally kind of motif that this beautiful girl was holding, this little pot plant with all these yellow flowers in there. And so I went to my go-to little leafy design and decided to kind of halo her with a wreath. I'm using my Uniball Signo white broad gel pen. Did I say all the words right? I think I did, which is the white gel pen that I always use in all of my current videos. I've been using these pens for, I'd say, a couple of years, and I've only ever had a couple of dodgy ones, and I have only ever killed one once by using it on paint that was definitely not dry yet. However, the impatientness in me forced it to try and work, and it didn't. So I would definitely suggest wait until your paint is dry before you use those. So then I wanted to do some sort of brush lettering, and my goodness, was it difficult to brush letter on paper towel. Would not recommend it at all. That stuff's very bumpy, and I know it's bumpy. I don't know why I thought it would work. It did work, but it was a little bit of a struggle, and I have sped that part up quite fast, so it didn't happen that smoothly. There was a lot more bumps. Then I wanted to add another hit of black because of course I've got the black and white stripes on the side. I've got the black of the little quote, and then I felt like I needed another kind of black bit, and so I am adding a few little kind of like scribbly, circly splodges. Like some of them are coloured in, and it's not one of my usual go-to mark making techniques. Usually I do plus signs, or I'll do little dots or just little dashes, but this was a variation. It was kind of like leopard print splots, I think. I don't know what I was thinking, but I really like the way it worked. Then I wanted to add some white splatters. So this is a very unconventional way to do white splatters. Would not suggest doing it this way if you don't like to get white paint on all of your items that you own. My iPad is usually resting behind my desk while I'm watching usually some sort of crime documentary or Real Housewives, and it is always covered in splatters. Always, just constant. It's a constant state. All right, guys, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and head over to my other channel, Inkie Quill, if you'd like to see some more. I'll see you in the next video. Bye!